All right, we are ready to begin a new chapter today. And what you're going to do is review something that you did in pre-algebra. And the thing you are going to be reviewing is the slope of a line. Now, when we talk about slope in algebra, slope is a number that describes the steepness of a line. So the big thing that I want you to keep in mind the entire time we're working on this chapter is that when we think about slope, what we're trying to describe is steepness. So if I were to come down here and draw this line is not very steep. Okay, but if I were to come right here next door and draw this line is very steep, especially when you compare it to that first one that I drew. So what we're going to learn how to do in this chapter is how to use a number, assign a number that will describe how steep this line is that is not very steep and how steep this line is that is pretty steep. So slope is steepness. Now we're going to learn how to find slope a couple of different ways, but the one we're going to work on today is slope on a graph. Slope on a graph. Now, the first thing that I want to tell you and that I want you to know is that when we talk about slope in algebra, it is represented by a lowercase m. So slope is equal to m. M is our letter that is going to represent slope. And our definition for slope in algebra is that slope is the rise over the run. So notice, slope is a fraction. It is the rise over the run. Now, let's talk about those two words. Okay, when I talk about rise, rise is either up or down. So those are the only two directions that a rise can go, either straight up or straight down. If it goes up, then the rise is positive. If it goes down, then the rise is negative. So these are the rules that we need to know. When we talk about run, run is allowed to go to the left or to the right. To the left or to the right. If the run goes left, it is negative, and if the run goes right, it is positive. So this is our definition for slope on a graph, rise over run, and this is what you need to know about each one, that the rise can go up or down. Up is a positive rise, down is a negative rise. Run can go either left or right. Left is a negative run, and right is a positive run. All right, so now what I want to do is show you how to use rise over run to find the slope of some lines on a graph. All right, so here is my first line. I want to point out right off the bat that if you look at your line, you'll see that there are two dots on the line. You have to have two dots in order to find slope, always. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to write m equals rise over run. That's my definition. And then I'm going to come down below this and put m equals and put a fraction bar and get myself ready. Now, when you go to find slope, I always want you to begin at the leftmost point. So begin at the point that is furthest to the left, which would be this one. So I'm going to start here. And what I'm trying to do is travel from this point on the left to this point on the right. So let's talk about the rise part of this. If I wanted to get from this point, the red point, to this point, would I have to go up or down? And the answer is I would have to go up. So I'm going to draw a line going straight up until I am level with that second point. Now, how much did I go up? Well, starting from here, I went up 1, 2 spaces. So my rise is either a +2 or a -2. Now I went up. So I went up 2 spaces. So that means my rise is going to be a +2. Okay. Now here is where I'm located. Now I'm going to run. So if I want to get to this point over here, would I have to run to the left or to the right? And the answer is I would have to run to the right. Okay, how far did I run? Well, I went 1, 2, 3 spaces. So I went to the right 3. So would that be a +3 or a -3? Well, right 3 is positive, so that would be a +3. So from the first point to the second point on this line, I went up 2 and I went right 3. So that would be +2 for the rise and +3 for the run. So my slope would be 2/3. And what that's telling me is that every time this line goes up 2 spaces, it goes right 3 spaces. That's how this line moves. So if you'll notice over here, if I start at this point, if I go up 2 and right 3, I land on the line. If I start at this point and I go up 2 and right 3, I land on the line. So notice it's like stair steps, up 2, right 3, up 2, right 3, up 2, right 3. So the line continues to move in that way. Now, once you have this slope written, +2 over +3, then the next thing I want you to do is go to that Desmos calculator, because we need to see if this will reduce. And I want you to type in this fraction. So type in 2 divided by 3. Now what will happen is you will get a decimal. So after you get the decimal, I want you to look on your screen next to that answer, and what you'll see is you'll see a circle, and there's a fraction inside of that circle. There's a box over another box. Press that, and it will change the answer to a fraction. So when you type in 2 divided by 3, you should get 0.66666 and so on. It keeps going. So then if you'll press this little button, it'll change it back to a fraction for you. And what we find out is that fraction does not simplify, it does not reduce. So +2/3 is the slope for this line. It rises 2 and it runs 3. So this is the number that describes the steepness of that line. It tells you how much it goes up compared with how much it goes over. And I want you to notice it's going up a little slower than it's going over. So that makes it not as steep. So 2/3 would be the slope. And notice that it is positive. All right, here's another line. Now you'll notice this line is going downhill as compared to this line. Wait, I went the wrong way. This line that we just did was going uphill. This line is going downhill. So let's see how that affects things. All right, so here's my line. I know that slope is rise over run. So I'm going to get myself ready here, get my fraction bar all set up. All right, always start at the leftmost point. So I'm going to mark him in red. And your job is to move and get to the rightmost point, which I'm going to mark in blue. So we're going from the red one to the blue one. All right, beginning at this red point, I want to rise in order to get to that blue point. Remember, rise can go up or down. In this case, if I want to get from the red point to the blue point, I would have to go down. So I draw a line straight down till I'm level with that point. Now, how much did I go down? I went down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces. So my rise is down 5, which means that I would make that a -5. Negative because I'm moving down. All right, now time to run. You can see over here on the graph that to get to the blue point, you're going to have to run to the right, and you only have to run to the right 1 space. So we are running to the right 1. Because it's to the right, that will be a +1. So this line rises -5 and runs +1. Down 5, right 1. Now go to Desmos and type in -5 divided by 1. This time for your answer, you get -5. Now notice that's not a fraction. But you learned a long time ago that you can make -5 a fraction by putting it over 1. So -5 or -5 over 1 would be the slope of this line. So what that means is every time the line goes down 5 spaces, it only goes over 1. So that's why this is pretty steep. It's pretty steep because it's going down a lot faster than it's going over. So this is the number that describes the steepness of this line. Now I want to point out something here. If I go back, look at my first example. This was a positive slope. And I want you to notice that that line goes uphill. Okay. And then on this second example that I did, I want you to notice that we got a negative slope as our answer. And because this slope is negative, that line goes downhill. Okay. Now, this time we have a line that is completely flat. And I want you to remember that a line like this that is completely flat is called a horizontal line. Now, you'll notice down here they haven't put any dots. So I'm going to go ahead on this line and put my own dots. I'm going to put one there and one there. So I know that slope is equal to rise over run. So I'm going to get myself ready here. And remember, we want to start at the point on the left. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to travel to that other point. Now, rise. Remember, rise can go up or down. I want you to notice that to get from the blue point to the red point, I don't have to go up or down. I only have to go across. So there is no up or down in this line. There is no rise. So this time the rise would be 0. This line doesn't rise. It doesn't go up or down. It only goes across. So now I'll look at my run. I'm running to the right. And I'm running to the right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces. So I went to the right 5 spaces, which means this would be a +5. Positive because I went to the right. So now that I've got my slope, 0 over 5, I'll go to Desmos. And I'll type in 0 divided by 5. And what I'll get is 0 for my answer. So the slope of this horizontal line is 0. And what you need to know is that this will be true for all horizontal lines, all flat lines. They will all have 0 slope. and they all have zero slope because they have no rise. So all horizontal lines are zero slope. Notice that the word horizontal has the Z in it. Notice there are also a couple of O's in it that look like zeros to kind of remind you of that. Okay, so now let's go to this line. Notice again, no dots on it. This time what we have is a vertical line. And I want you to notice that this vertical line goes up and down. Up and down. Now there are no dots on it, so I'm going to go ahead and come over here and pick out a couple of dots. And then I'll get myself ready to talk about the steepness of this line. Slope is rise over run. So I'll get my fraction bar all set up and get ready to go. All right, this time I don't have a leftmost point, so I'm going to start at this bottom point and go up to that top point. So do I have a rise? Do I have to go up or down? And the answer is yes, I have to go up. And I have to go up 1, 2, 3 spaces. So my rise is up 3, which means that that will be a positive 3. Now, my run, do I have to go left or right? The answer is no, because look, I'm already at the point. I don't have to travel to the left or the right. This line doesn't move left and right. It doesn't run. So there is no run, which means there would be a 0 down here. So now if you'll go to your Desmos calculator and you type in 3 divided by 0, your calculator will say undefined. So on this problem, you will say slope is undefined, and we'll just abbreviate that with UND. All vertical lines have undefined slope. All vertical lines have undefined slope. And I want to point out something here. I pointed out that this vertical line goes up and down. The slope is undefined, up and down. So vertical lines go up and down. Undefined slopes go up and down. So that's a good way to help you remember that. All right, so to kind of summarize what you've seen in these examples. Oh, I have a couple more to do here. To kind of summarize what you've seen in these examples, all right? Slope is M, and on a graph, it's rise over run. Rise can go up or down. Up is positive, down is negative. Run can go left or right. Left is negative, right is positive. And what you have seen in the 4 examples that I've done for you here is there are 4 types of slope. 4 types of slope. Lines that go up have positive slope. Lines that go down have negative slope. Lines that are horizontal 69, lines that are horizontal have 0 slope, and lines that are vertical have undefined slope. All right, so let's do just a couple more problems to be sure you got it. All right, when I look at this next example, the first thing I can see is I know that this line should have a negative slope. And how do I know that? Well, I know that because this line is headed downhill. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to start at my leftmost point. And I can see that when I rise, I'm going to go down to get to that other point.
This is Ms. Carruthers at this time.
All right, I'm going down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces, so down 5. So that means my rise is a -5. All right, when I run then, I'm going to run to the right. So notice I run to the right, and notice that I run to the right 2 spaces. So that's going to be a +2 because I'm going to the right. All right, on my calculator now, I've got my 2 numbers. On my calculator, I'm going to type in -5 divided by 2, which will give me -2.5. I don't want a decimal, so I press or click on that little fraction icon that's near the number. And what will happen is this will change to back to -5/2, which means that doesn't reduce. So my answer on this one will be a slope of -5/2. All right, and I think I've got one more we can do here. Yes, I do. All right, when I look at this example, what I know for sure is that this line has a positive slope because he's headed uphill. So I will begin at the point on the left, and I notice this time that when I rise, I have to go up, and I have to go up quite a bit here. I'm going up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So up 7. So that means +7 for my rise. And then I can see that I am running to the right. And I'm running to the right 1, 2 spaces, which makes this a +2 on the bottom. So now we'll go to the calculator. We'll type in 7 divided by 2, which will be 3.5. I want a fraction, so I'll push my little fraction button on the calculator, and that will change it back to 7/2. What we're doing when we do the calculator part of this is we're seeing if that fraction can simplify, if it can reduce to lowest terms. So my slope on this one will be 7/2. And what I mean by that is, like, if I were to do a slope of 3/6, this is not for this example, but if I were to get a slope of 3/6, when I type in 3 divided by 6, I would get 0.5. And then when I press my fraction button, that would change it to 1/2. So the 3/6 will simplify to 1/2. So that's what we're looking for there. So you're doing slope, which is steepness. You're doing it on a graph. You're using m equals rise over run. Go up or down first. Up is positive, down is negative. Then left or right. Left is negative, right is positive. And there are 4 types of slopes. So if you see a line going up, the answer should be positive. If you see a line going down, the answer should be negative. If you see a flat line, it should be 0. And if you see a vertical line going up and down, it should be UND, up and down, up and down, undefined slope. All right, give these problems a try. And if you have any questions at all, please be sure and let me know.